The UNSV Hippocrates moved quietly through space, its white hull shining against the darkness. Red crosses marked its sides, showing it was a medical ship from Earth. Inside, the crew worked with purpose, preparing for their mission. Captain Hannah Kim walked through the medical bay, watching as doctors and nurses organized supplies. This was her 5th mission as captain, but the first to such a distant part of space. "Captain, may I have a word?" asked Dr. Sun Ho, the ship's chief medical officer. He was tall and thin, with careful hands that had saved countless lives. "Of course, doctor," said Hannah, following him to a quiet corner. "The disease affecting the Vorel people is unlike anything we've seen before," Sun explained, showing her images on his tablet. "It attacks their respiratory system first, then spreads to their nervous tissue." Hannah studied the images with a frown. "Can we help them?" "I believe so. Professor Ji-min's new treatment should work, with some adjustments for their biology." On the bridge, Officer Tao Jun monitored communications, while Navigator Min Ho plotted their course to the planet Vorel. Earth had only discovered this world 3 months ago, when they detected distress signals describing a deadly plague. "Captain on bridge," announced Security Chief Yuna as Hannah entered. "Status report," Hannah said, taking her seat in the command chair. "We'll reach Vorel in 40 minutes, Captain," Min reported. "All systems normal." Hannah nodded. "Any response to our approach messages?" "Nothing yet," said Ta, "but their communication systems might be affected by the crisis." In the research lab below, Professor Ji-min checked her equipment one final time. At 62, she was the oldest person on board, and the most decorated scientist in Earth's medical fleet. Her nanocellular therapy had saved millions during the Mars colony virus outbreak 5 years ago. "Professor, the viral samples are secure," her assistant Hyun said, closing a refrigerated case. "We can begin synthesis as soon as we have patient samples." "Good," Jai replied. "This will be challenging. The Vorel have a silicon-based biology. We'll need to modify everything." The Hippocrates continued its journey, passing the outer beacon that marked the edge of well-mapped space. Beyond this point, Earth had little information about what they might encounter. In her private quarters, Captain Hannah reviewed the mission briefing again. Earth's policy was clear: offer medical aid to any species that needed it. This built goodwill as humanity expanded into the stars. But something about this mission made her uneasy. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. "Enter," she called. Security Chief Yuna stepped in. "Captain, long-range sensors picked up some unusual energy readings ahead. Nothing in our databases matches the pattern. Natural phenomenon. Unlikely. The readings are too regular," Yuna said, handing over her tablet. Hannah studied the data with growing concern. "Alert all sections. Raise shields as a precaution." Throughout the ship, crew members responded to the alert with practiced efficiency. In the medical bay, doctors secured sensitive equipment while nurses checked emergency protocols. "What's happening?" asked Dr. Jun, a young physician on his first space mission. "Probably nothing," Sun replied calmly. "The captain is just being careful." On the bridge, the tension was palpable as they approached the coordinates where the energy readings originated. "Dropping out of FTL in 3, 2, 1, announced Min Ho. The star-streak view outside the windows resolved into normal space. Ahead lay a blue-green planet, Vorel, but between the Hippocrates and its destination floated 3 massive ships. "Configuration unknown," reported Yuna, her fingers flying over her console. "Definitely not Earth vessels or any allied design." The ships were angular and dark, with sharp edges that seemed designed to cut through space itself. No lights or markings were visible on their hulls. "Open a channel," ordered Hannah. "All frequencies." Tai worked at his station. "Channel open, Captain." Hannah stood, straightening her uniform. "This is Captain Hannah Kim of the Earth medical vessel Hippocrates. We are on a humanitarian mission to assist the people of Vorel with a medical emergency. Please identify yourselves." Silence answered her. The three ships remained motionless. "No response, Captain," Ta said after a minute. "Keep trying. Add translation matrices for all known languages." Suddenly, the ships began to move, spreading out to surround the Hippocrates. "Captain, they're powering up something," warned Yuna. Energy signatures climbing rapidly. Hannah's uneasiness crystallized into alarm. "Red alert. All hands to emergency stations." The warning klaxon sounded throughout the ship as the crew raced to their positions. In the medical bay, Sun Ho ordered patients secured and emergency medical kits prepared. "This is not a drill." Hannah's voice came over the ship-wide system. "Prepare for possible hostile action." As if triggered by her words, the lead ship fired a pulse of energy that struck the Hippocrates shields, making the entire vessel shudder. "Shields at 70%, called out Yuna. Hannah gripped her chair. "This is Captain Hannah Kim. We are an unarmed medical vessel. Please cease fire immediately." Another blast rocked the ship. The mysterious attackers had made their intentions clear. The Mercy mission had become something else entirely. The bridge of the Hippocrates shook as another energy blast hit the shields. Warning lights flashed red across every console. Captain Hannah gripped her command chair as the ship tilted sharply. "Shields at 30%. Yuna called out, her voice steadied despite the chaos. "Still no response to our hails," reported Ta-Jun, working frantically at his station. Hannah made a quick decision. "This is the captain. All personnel proceed to escape pods immediately. Medical team priority. Secure the research data." Throughout the ship, crew members rushed to follow her orders. In the medical bay, Dr. Sun Ho helped patients into protective suits. "Move quickly but carefully," he instructed. "Take only what you can carry." Professor Ji Min carefully packed her research tablet into a waterproof case. "The treatment formulas must survive," she told her assistant Hyun. "Without them, the Vorel people have no chance." Another blast rocked the ship. The lights flickered, then switched to emergency power. "Engine core destabilizing," the ship's computer announced calmly. "Hull breach on Deck 3. On the bridge, Captain Hannah sent one final message to Earth, reporting the unprovoked attack. "This is Captain Hannah Kim of the UNSV Hippocrates. We are under attack by unknown forces. Coordinates attached. Ship integrity failing. Abandoning vessel." She turned to the few remaining bridge crew. "Get to the escape pods now." "That's an order." "Captain, Yushold," began Navigator Min Ho. "I'll be right behind you," Hannah promised. "Go." As the bridge emptied, Hannah initiated the final protocol. Wiping the ship's sensitive databases, she would not let Earth's medical advances fall into hostile hands. In the corridor outside the research lab, Dr. Jin Soo helped an injured nurse toward the escape pods. The ship rocked again, and ceiling panels crashed down around them. "Almost there," Jin encouraged. "Just a few more meters." They rounded a corner to find Captain Hannah directing crew members into pods. "Dr. Jin, get in Pod 5, she ordered, helping the injured nurse into Pod 4. Jin hesitated. "Captain, there's room for 2. I need to make sure everyone gets out," Hannah said firmly, pushing the data tablet into his hands. "Take this research. It's more important than any of us." Before Jin could protest, she sealed his pod and hit the launch button. Through the small viewport, Jin watched as the captain turned back toward the interior of the dying ship. Dozens of small pods ejected from the Hippocrates, scattering in different directions. Inside Pod 5, Jin strapped himself in as the small vessel tumbled away from the medical ship. When the pod stabilized, Jin looked back through the viewport. What he saw burned itself into his memory forever. The beautiful white hull of the Hippocrates cracked open as silent explosions rippled along its length. The ship that had been his home for 3 years came apart in slow, terrible pieces. But the horror wasn't over. The 3 attacking ships turned their weapons toward the planet below. "No," Jin whispered, watching as energy beams lanced down at Vorel. "They're targeting the planet." Through the pod's simple sensors, Jin detected other energy signatures. The attackers were targeting the fleeing escape pods too. One by one, small lights on his tracking display winked out. The pod shuddered as something hit it, a glancing blow that sent it spinning. Emergency systems kicked in, correcting the trajectory, but the communication array was damaged. Jin checked the navigation system. The pod was falling toward Vorel's surface, its descent only partially controlled. He clutched the research tablet to his chest and prepared for impact. On another escape pod, Communications Officer Tao Jun worked desperately to boost his signal. He had one job now: get a message to Earth. Mayday, Mayday, he broadcast on all frequencies. UNSV Hippocrates destroyed by unknown hostile forces. Coordinates follow. He attached the sensor data showing the attacking ships and their energy signatures. His pod shook violently as a beam grazed it. The heat shield began to glow as he entered Vorel's atmosphere. Ta didn't know if his message had reached anyone, but he had done his duty. The surface of Vorel rushed up to meet him. His last thought before impact was of Captain Hana, standing tall on her bridge as her ship died around her. Miles away, Dr. Jin's pod crashed into a dense forest. The impact protection systems saved his life, though he was bruised and bleeding. As the hatch opened automatically, Jin stumbled out onto alien soil, still clutching the precious research tablet. Above him, the sky burned with the remnants of the Hippocrates. Further up, he could see flashes of light as the unknown ships continued their assault on anything moving in Vorel's orbit. Jin looked around at the alien landscape, realizing he might be the only survivor. Whatever these attackers wanted, they were willing to destroy a clearly marked medical ship and bombard a plague-stricken planet to get it. He activated the pod's emergency beacon, though he doubted anyone friendly would find him soon. Then he carefully checked the tablet. The data was intact. The treatment for the Vorel plague was safe. If he survived, there was still hope for the planet's people. In the distance, he heard the crash of another pod landing. Someone else had made it. Jin gathered his strength and began walking toward the sound, determined that the Hippocrates mission would not end here, even if the ship itself was gone. The United Earth Council chamber fell silent as the final moments of the Hippocrates played on the large screen. The distress signal, sent by Communications Officer Tao Jun, had taken 3 days to reach Earth. It showed the medical ship breaking apart under enemy fire, followed by the systematic destruction of escape pods and orbital bombardment of the planet Vorel. Admiral Dai-1 stood before the 24 council members, his posture rigid, his face showing no emotion. But those who knew him well could see the controlled fury in his eyes. The attack was unprovoked, he stated after the recording ended. Our medical ship was clearly marked. Its mission was purely humanitarian. Council leader Suk Yeon, a small woman with steel-gray hair and piercing eyes, rose slowly from her seat. Though she was 73 years old, her voice carried throughout the chamber with strength and purpose. "How many survivors?" she asked. "Unknown," Admiral Day replied. "We've detected emergency beacon signals from the surface of Vorel, but they're weak and fading. At least some of our people survived the initial attack." Suk looked around at the other council members. Their faces showed shock, anger, and growing resolve. "A vote," she announced. "All in favor of activating Protocol Sleeping Dragon, raise your hands." Every hand in the chamber went up without hesitation. "Then it's time," Suk declared. "Admiral Day, you have full authority. Bring our people home." Within hours, the order spread through secure channels to hidden facilities across Earth and throughout the solar system. In the asteroid belt, what appeared to be a mining operation transformed as massive doors slid open to reveal a fleet of warships. On Mars, underground bunkers that officially housed atmospheric processors opened to reveal weapons manufacturing plants. From Jupiter's moons to Neptune's orbit, disguised military installations hummed to life. At Earth's lunar base, Admiral Dai stood in the control center watching as status reports came in. Colonel Minna approached with a tablet. "The first and second fleets are ready," "Admiral," she reported. "Third Fleet will be combat-ready in 6 hours." Day nodded. "And the special weapons?" "The Sun Arc is operational," Minna confirmed. "The targeting system has been calibrated." For 20 years, Earth had prepared in secret. The discovery of alien life had brought excitement and scientific opportunity, but Earth's leaders had always known that not all encounters might be friendly. Behind the public face of exploration and medical missions, a hidden military force had grown, using technology reverse-engineered from fragments of alien technology found on Pluto's moon. In his private office, Dai studied the data from the attack. The enemy ships matched no known configuration in their databases, but their attack pattern suggested a military discipline that spoke of a vast empire, not a chance encounter with pirates. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. "Enter," he called. A young officer stepped in, saluting. "Sir, we've identified a survivor. A transmission from Vorel just reached us." Day felt a surge of hope. "Put it through." The screen on his wall flickered to life, showing a gaunt face marked with cuts and bruises. It was Dr. Jin Su. "This is Dr. Jin Su of the UNSV Hippocrates," the man said, his voice weak but determined. "I've been hiding on Vorel for 3 days. The attacking forces appear to have left the system, but not before bombarding major population centers." "Dr. Jin," Day responded, "are there other survivors?" "Yes, sir. I found 7 others, including Professor G-Min. We're treating the Vorel people as best we can. The plague is still spreading, but Professor G's treatment works. We need help, Admiral. The Vorel are dying." "Help is coming, Doctor," Day promised. "Can you tell us anything about the attackers?" Jin's face hardened. "They call themselves the Hegemony. From what the Vorel have told us, they control thousands of worlds. They consider this sector their territory and view any outside contact as invasion." The transmission began breaking up. "Signal failing. Please hurry." As the screen went dark, Dai made his decision. He pressed a button on his desk. "Colonel Mina, prepare First Fleet for immediate departure. Rescue mission to Vorel is now priority Alpha." Across the lunar base, soldiers and pilots rushed to their positions. Ships that had never before left their hiding places powered up engines. Weapons systems were armed and tested. On Earth, citizens went about their daily lives, unaware that the greatest military force in human history was about to reveal itself. News channels reported only that contact with the Hippocrates had been lost and that a search and rescue mission was underway. In orbit around Jupiter, the flagship of First Fleet, the UNSV Retribution, prepared to depart. Its massive form, 3 times larger than anything humans had publicly acknowledged building, gleamed in the distant sunlight. On its bridge, Admiral Dad took command. As the fleet prepared to jump, he looked at the image of the destroyed Hippocrates one last time. "They attacked a medical ship," he said quietly. "Now they will learn what happens when you awaken humanity's wrath." With a flash of light, the First Fleet jumped toward Vorel, beginning a conflict that would change the galaxy forever. Dr. Jin Su looked up from tending a young Vorel patient as the ground trembled slightly. The alien child's 4 eyes widened in fear. "It's okay," Jin said gently, adjusting the breathing mask he'd improvised. "That's just friends coming to help us." He stepped outside the makeshift clinic, once a school building before the bombardment, and looked up at the sky. Through breaks in the clouds, he could see flashes of light in orbit. Earth ships had arrived. 7 days had passed since the attack on the Hippocrates. Jin and the other survivors had worked tirelessly, using damaged equipment from their escape pods to treat the sick and injured. Professor G-Min's treatment for the plague was working, but they needed more supplies. A sound like thunder rolled across the landscape as a ship descended through the atmosphere. It wasn't an Earth design Jin recognized. It was larger, more angular, clearly built for war rather than science or medicine. "Dr. Jin," called a voice behind him. It was Ta Jun, the communications officer who had sent the distress signal. His right arm was in a makeshift sling. Is that Earth? Jin confirmed. They got your message. The ship landed in a cleared area nearby. Its hull bore the Earth insignia, but also a symbol Jin had never seen, a dragon coiled around a sword. The hatch opened, and soldiers in advanced combat armor emerged first, securing the perimeter. Then a tall man in an admiral's uniform strode down the ramp. Dr. Jin Su, the man called. For 20 years, Earth had prepared in secret. The discovery of alien life had brought excitement and scientific opportunity, but Earth's leaders had always known that not all encounters might be friendly. Behind the public face of exploration and medical missions, a hidden military force had grown, using technology reverse-engineered from fragments of alien technology found on Pluto's moon. In his private office, Dai studied the data from the attack. The enemy ships matched no known configuration in their databases, but their attack pattern suggested a military discipline that spoke of a vast empire, not a chance encounter with pirates. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. "Enter," he called. A young officer stepped in, saluting. "Sir, we've identified a survivor. A transmission from Vorel just reached us." Day felt a surge of hope. "Put it through." The screen on his wall flickered to life, showing a gaunt face marked with cuts and bruises. It was Dr. Jin Su. "This is Dr. Jin Su of the UNSV Hippocrates," the man said, his voice weak but determined. "I've been hiding on Vorel for 3 days. The attacking forces appear to have left the system, but not before bombarding major population centers." "Dr. Jin," Day responded. "Are there other survivors?" "Yes, sir. I found 7 others, including Professor Jimin. We're treating the Vorel people as best we can. The plague is still spreading, but Professor G's treatment works. We need help. Admiral, the Vorel are dying. Help is coming, Doctor," Day promised. "Can you tell us anything about the attackers?" Jin's face hardened. "They call themselves the Hegemony. From what the Vorel have told us, they control thousands of worlds. They consider this sector their territory and view any outside contact as invasion." The transmission began breaking up. "Signal failing. Please hurry." As the screen went dark, Dai made his decision. He pressed a button on his desk. "Colonel Mina, prepare First Fleet for immediate departure. Rescue mission to Vorel is now priority alpha." Across the lunar base, soldiers and pilots rushed to their positions. Ships that had never before left their hiding places powered up engines. Weapon systems were armed and tested. On Earth, citizens went about their daily lives, unaware that the greatest military force in human history was about to reveal itself. News channels reported only that contact with the Hippocrates had been lost and that a search and rescue mission was underway. In orbit around Jupiter, the flagship of First Fleet, the UNSV Retribution, prepared to depart. Its massive form, 3 times larger than anything humans had publicly acknowledged building, gleamed in the distant sunlight. On its bridge, Admiral Dai took command. As the fleet prepared to jump, he looked at the image of the destroyed Hippocrates one last time. "They attacked a medical ship," he said quietly. "Now they will learn what happens when you awaken humanity's wrath." With a flash of light, the First Fleet jumped toward Vorel, beginning a conflict that would change the galaxy forever. Dr. Jin Su looked up from tending a young Vorel patient as the ground trembled slightly. The alien child's 4 eyes widened in fear. "It's okay," Jin said gently, adjusting the breathing mask he'd improvised. "That's just friends coming to help us." He stepped outside the makeshift clinic, once a school building before the bombardment, and looked up at the sky. Through breaks in the clouds, he could see flashes of light in orbit. Earth ships had arrived. 7 days had passed since the attack on the Hippocrates. Jin and the other survivors had worked tirelessly, using damaged equipment from their escape pods to treat the sick and injured. Professor Jimin's treatment for the plague was working, but they needed more supplies. A sound like thunder rolled across the landscape as a ship descended through the atmosphere. It wasn't an Earth design Jin recognized. It was larger, more angular, clearly built for war rather than science or medicine. "Dr. Jin," called a voice behind him. It was Ta Jun, the communications officer who had sent the distress signal. His right arm was in a makeshift sling. "Is that Earth?" Jin confirmed. "They got your message." The ship landed in a cleared area nearby. It all bore the Earth insignia, but also a symbol Jin had never seen, a dragon coiled around a sword. The hatch opened, and soldiers in advanced combat armor emerged first, securing the perimeter. Then a tall man in an admiral's uniform strode down the ramp. "Dr. Jin Su," the man called. Jin stepped forward. "Yes, sir." "Admiral .1." The officer introduced himself. "We're here to bring you home." He looked around at the devastated settlement. "And to help these people." Within hours, more ships arrived, bringing medical supplies, food, and more soldiers. Jin watched in amazement as engineers assembled a field hospital in less than a day, complete with equipment he'd only read about in scientific journals. "Admiral," Jin asked as they walked through the new hospital, "where did all this come from? I've never seen these ship designs before." Admiral De's expression was solemn. "Protocol Sleeping Dragon," he explained. "Earth has been preparing for this possibility for decades. We hoped it would never be necessary." In the command center set up inside the largest Earth ship, Jin presented what he had learned while stranded on Vorel. He placed a small device on the briefing table. "I found this in a crashed Hegemony scout ship," he explained. "It's part of their communication system." Commander Yun Min, a sharp-featured woman who led the fleet's technical division, examined the device. "This confirms our analysis. Their ships rely on a centralized control system." "Exactly," Jin nodded. "From what I've pieced together from Vorel records, the Hegemony fleet moves as one unit, controlled by command ships. Disrupt that control, and their coordinated attack strategies fail," Yun finished. "Admiral, this is the weakness we've been looking for." Admiral Dai studied the holographic display showing the positions of hegemony forces in nearby systems. "They don't know we're here yet. The element of surprise gives us one chance to strike effectively." 3 days later, the counterattack began. Earth ships, smaller but more agile than the hegemony vessels, jumped into multiple systems simultaneously. Using the intelligence gathered from Jin's discovery, they targeted communication hubs first. On the bridge of the flagship Retribution, Commander Yun watched as her ship approached a massive hegemony space station. The station controlled all military communications in this sector of space. "Weapons locked on target," reported the tactical officer. Yun gave the order. "Fire." The Retribution unleashed a barrage unlike anything humanity had publicly demonstrated before. Beams of concentrated energy sliced through the station's defenses. At the same moment, in 6 other systems, Earth ships struck similar targets with the same precision. The hegemony, accustomed to being the unchallenged power in the galaxy, had grown complacent. Their ships were powerful but inflexible. When communication between their vessels failed, their coordinated defense fell apart. Dr. Jin watched from a medical transport as the Earth fleet engaged 3 hegemony destroyers that had returned to Vorel. The battle was swift and decisive. The Earth ships executed maneuvers the hegemony clearly thought impossible, jumping in and out of FTL flight in tactical patterns that confused the enemy. "For the hypocrites," Commander Yun whispered as the first hegemony dreadnought crumbled under concentrated fire. Within weeks, news of the hegemony's defeats spread through their territory. Species that had lived under their control for generations began to resist. Earth forces made contact with these resistance movements, providing weapons and tactical support. Admiral Dai stood before a holographic map showing the rapidly changing front lines. "We're not just fighting for vengeance," he told his officers. "We're fighting for every species that has suffered under hegemony rule." On Vorel, as the plague finally began to recede thanks to Earth medicine, Dr. Jin helped rebuild medical facilities. He thought of Captain Hana and her final act of courage. Her sacrifice had revealed a terrible threat, but also awakened humanity's true strength. 6 months had passed since the attack on the hypocrites. Dr. Jin Su stood on the balcony of the new medical center on Forel, watching children play in the park below. Some were Forel, with their 4 eyes and blue-tinted skin. Others were human children, the sons and daughters of Earth personnel who had settled here to help rebuild. The plague was contained now. Professor Jimin's treatment had saved millions of Forel lives. The new medical center stood where the first Earth Field Hospital had been established, now a permanent symbol of cooperation between the two species. Jin touched the small medal pinned to his coat, the Hippocrates Cross, given to all survivors of the attacked medical ship. He still had nightmares about that day, still saw Captain Hana's face as she closed his escape pod, sacrificing herself to save others. "Dr. Jin," called a voice behind him. "There's a transmission for you." Jin turned to see his assistant, a young Vorel named Tarek. "Who is it?" "Admiral Da. He says it's important." In his office, Jin activated the communication screen. Admiral Da's face appeared, looking tired but satisfied. "Doctor, how are things on Forel?" the Admiral asked. "The recovery continues," Jin replied. "The new vaccine production facility is operating at full capacity. We're shipping treatments to 3 other affected worlds now." Admiral Da nodded. "Good work, but I called with news." He paused. "The Hegemony Council has requested peace talks." Jin sat straighter. After all this time, their empire is crumbling from within. Too many rebellions on too many worlds. They can't maintain control. The Admiral's expression hardened. "They've agreed to our primary demand: accountability for the attack on the Hippocrates." Jin felt a complex mix of emotions, satisfaction, but also a deep sadness for what had been lost. "When will the talks begin?" "Next month. We'd like you to attend, as a survivor and witness." After the call ended, Jin walked through the medical center halls. Earth and Vorel doctors worked side by side, exchanging knowledge and techniques. What had begun in tragedy had evolved into something remarkable. 1 month later, Jin stood in the grand hall of the neutral planet chosen for the peace conference. Representatives from 27 species filled the room. Many former subjects of the hegemony, now free to determine their own futures. The hegemony delegation entered last. Jin was surprised to see how physically small they were. Thin, pale beings with large heads and 6-fingered hands. Their empire had been built not on physical strength, but on advanced technology and the ruthless application of power. The lead hegemony representative approached the central podium. "For 10,000 years, the hegemony has maintained order in this galaxy," he began. "We viewed your unannounced expansion into our territory as a threat." Admiral Dai stood. "A medical ship is not a threat. The unprovoked destruction of the Hippocrates violated every principle of civilized contact." A representative from Malar, a world that had been under hegemony rule for centuries, raised her voice. "The hegemony has never been concerned with principles or civilization, only control." The discussions continued for days. Jin provided testimony about the attack and its aftermath. When he described Captain Hana's final moments, ensuring others escaped while she remained on the dying ship, many in the hall wept, including some from worlds that had only recently met humans. Finally, terms were reached. The hegemony would withdraw from 90% of its territory, maintaining only its original homeworlds. A new alliance would be formed among the freed worlds, with Earth playing the key role not as conquerors, but as partners. 1 year after the attack on the Hippocrates, Jin stood again on the balcony of the Vorel Medical Center. Below him now was a large gathering, the dedication ceremony for the Captain Hana Kim Memorial Hospital. Earth ships flew overhead in formation, followed by vessels from a dozen formerly oppressed species. Where once the hegemony had ruled through fear, a new coalition built on mutual respect and cooperation was growing stronger each day. Jin's communication device chimed. It was a message from Earth, He had been appointed director of the new interspecies medical exchange. His work would help prevent diseases from spreading between worlds and develop treatments for all sentient beings, regardless of biology. A Vorel child approached, offering Jin a flower-like plant native to this world. "Thank you," Jin said, accepting the gift. "My grandmother was sick with the plague," the child said in careful English. "Earth medicine saved her. When I grow up, I want to be a doctor like you." Jin looked up at the sky where ships from many worlds moved peacefully in orbit. The attack on one medical ship had revealed humanity's strength, but it was their subsequent compassion toward liberated worlds that was building something stronger than any empire, a community of worlds united by common ideals rather than force. As the ceremony began, Jin thought of Captain Hana and all those lost with the Hippocrates. Their mission of mercy had ultimately changed the galaxy in ways no one could have imagined. And the work they had begun would continue, one patient, one world at a time.